People have their own reasons on flaking out of social plans at the last minute. Should they have some grace and understanding, or is it just plain selfishness? Many of those who are flaking out are calling it self-care, and they need to focus on themselves after committing to important things like weddings or attending gatherings and birthday parties. Joining us to talk about it, we have with us Darian Lewis from the Monica Lewis School of Etiquette, community activist Eva Go, and the therapist. It's not the therapist, it's therapist. But you are the therapist.
The therapist. Okay.
Bernadette Smith, Dr. Bernadette Smith. Glad to have you all here on The Factor. Eva, have you had anyone to just like flake out on you and not show up and say, look, I needed this time for myself?
Absolutely. But before I rag on anybody, I have to say I've been on both sides of that coin. So yes, when it's me with the event, it is a little bit difficult, especially when you put out a lot of effort and money for different events and people cancel out at the last minute. It's not a good thing.
And how does that leave you feeling towards the other person who has committed to you, saying, I will be there?
I'm very disappointed. It depends on what the reason is. But normally it is disappointing, again, if I put forth the effort to invite them, to prepare for them, and they cancel out the last minute without, say, a good excuse, then it definitely gives me a little bit of a bad taste.
Darian, as an etiquette expert, your thoughts on someone doing that who has not offered you an ample excuse, or that their parents have died, or their kid has been shot, or
See, that's where you're going wrong. When you start to make up that stuff, there's too much of a story, and it's beginning, middle, and end. Save it, because there are certain events where canceling at the last minute is just absolute no. That's like a wedding, especially if there's a plated reception after, or a birthday dinner where, you know, there's reservations and money being spent. Whenever the host has to spend money or do something extraordinary in order to accommodate the guest list, then you should do everything possible to show up and be on time. Now, once you're there, it's always better to show up and leave early than not show up at all, or call in right before the event saying you're not going to come.
And in some instances, people send text messages.
Yeah,
is that even worse?
That's worse. Yes, that's worse, because what you're saying is you didn't value the host enough to make the phone call, or to, you know, let them hear from you. And sometimes the host may not have even seen your text message until after the event. So now you're dealing with all of the emotional fallout behind that, you know, because they're feeling like you didn't call, you didn't show up, and now they're, you know, completely going in a deep dive about the state of the relationship. So now you not only have to apologize for not showing up, but now you have to take ownership and responsibility for the emotional fallout after.
And Dr. Smith, how do you keep yourself, if you're the person hosting that event or that wedding or that birthday party, from holding it against that person for a long time?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, you're no longer on the list. You are less than the friend. I'm not going to call you. I'm not going to treat you with the same friendship that we've had in the past.
So I think it's layered, right? So one, I think that we need to be cautious about internalizing things that aren't our stuff. So while, yes, if somebody doesn't attend a wedding, right? So for example, I didn't go to one of my best friend's weddings. Not because I didn't want to.
Shame on you.
I know. Shame.
Right, because you had to know before.
Poor shame.
So you know what, I let them know, I think it was the day of, right? I ended up being sick and wasn't able to go.
Well, that's reasonable.
Yeah.
You're sick.
But
Allegedly.
Right? But she hasn't come to some of my things either, right? And so again, we have to recognize we cannot internalize other people's things as our own. The other part of that is being able to look at what is that friendship foundation based on. And so then it looks at, okay, do I know this person? Do I know that maybe they struggle with social anxiety or depression, or do they have just a lot of stuff going on in their, you know, personal world that sometimes prevents them from being in attendance, which then gives me the opportunity to say, how then do I want to manage my expectations in terms of how they're going to show up? Have the conversation, communicate, and then be able to say, well, what would you like to do instead? So, hey, I can't be there for you, but I'm going to support you in the background.
All right. We want to thank you for your advice and your experience and your expertise.
Exactly.